brother Jody Jadley is about 6 months pregnant, and Jacob Rumpf was first arrested in January 2005 for murder.
Hey everybody, my name is Jake and welcome to Sunday Service. I'm a former Jehovah's Witness, current embodiment of seasonal affective disorder, and this is a live stream show I do every Sunday where I check in on the cults that I used to grow up in, Jehovah's Witnesses, see what our old cult leaders are up to, what kind of things are my parents and old families and friends learning today. So thanks for being here. I'm excited. We've got an exciting show. We're going to talk about some updates in Norway, some sneaky shenanigans Jehovah's Witnesses are pulling regarding their changes to disfellowshipping, and we're going to talk about this weird new Gilead graduation thing. The sound drop intro thing that I made is from the most recent governing body update, and I had edited that for a video that will hopefully be ready tomorrow, so look forward to that. I'm simultaneously streaming this on All Worldly to try and artificially goose the numbers, so I guess we'll see. We'll see if that works. I figured since it's Norway related, more people might wanna join. But before we get into that, we do have to do some business up top. Just do some channel updates. If you've never been here before, this is a live hangout. And there's going to be tangents, there's going to be rambling. We might even have some new sound drops to play for when we go on those tangents and rambling. But before we get into that, I do just have to talk about some YouTube business.
Oh, happy day. All worldly complaining about YouTube.
Yes, okay, YouTube stuff. Well, one thing is that I got a new video coming out, again, hopefully tomorrow. It'll probably be up early for patrons and members, so boy oh boy, you should do it. It's going to be a really good one. We're going to dive deep into the new governing body members who were just announced as Jehovah's Witnesses and look into the real estate shenanigans that the group has been up to. Both of those guys have a background, one in real estate, the other in the LDC, the building projects that Jehovah's Witnesses do. So it's a fun video. If you've liked my recent uploads, it's another good one. What? When am I bad? When are the videos bad? Don't answer that question. Second thing is, I'm really going to try and take live streaming more seriously. I am live streaming to both my accounts. Is that a mistake? Maybe I'll just drop the alt-worldly one, so just people know, like, hey, get the hell over here. Get your shit together. Come on over to Sunday Service. I don't know. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe everything I've ever done in my entire life is a mistake. It's hard to say. But yeah, we're this channel, Sunday Service, I'm going to use for live streams, and I want to start live streaming more because I really like doing it. And I'm galvanized by the, seeming end of democracy and the rise of Christian nationalism. I left a cult to get away from things like queerphobia and religious zealotry and misogyny. And, now we're here. Now things are happening. All right, I'm just going to remove this from the goddamn alt-worldly channel. Delete it from YouTube. It's gone. It's gone. People have been warned. All right, I think we're good. I'm gonna just pull up my YouTube account and make sure we're all squared away here. This is a work in progress. So if you're not subscribed to the Sunday Service feed, please do that. I just had a good conversation with someone who's going to be kind of my partner in crime in trying to not just generate stream highlights from the Sunday Service channel, but also from future political streams, perhaps. So, yeah, We'll see. I'm going to be launching a Substack. I'm going to be launching, to blog and just write about stuff. Oh man, we kicked so many people. We kicked so many people out. They're all gone. They're all dead. You know what I'll do? I'll make a, oh my god, yes. Leaving the JW cult was just the tutorial level. I know. So, yeah, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing more shit. I want to talk more about the rise of Christian nationalism and kind of not necessarily on this stream. I like Sunday service being exactly what it is. But I want to be able to do more streams where I can kind of direct my snarky ire at like Christian nationalist figures and political figures. And keep that stuff away from the alt-worldly channel. You know what I mean? So I think we're rising. If you are not a patron or a member, please do consider being that. I want to be able to do this kind of thing full time. I really like doing it, making videos and writing. So if you're able to do that, let's just fucking combat Christian nationalism and cultiness and evangelical bigotry together as a group. Oh, okay. I've got to give some people some special powers. All right. I'm going to try and... I got to open my YouTube studio and do a couple things here. Because we got to make sure we get rid of this. Okay. Got rid of that faulty alt-worldly stream. And now... we got to give some mod powers because, yeah, I think I maybe don't have any mods assigned on Sunday service, which is a problem because we might be getting into more content that might annoy people. Oh, good. I am going to try to avoid infighting and drama, though. I just saw an upload that, you can't see. But it annoyed me. I wish I could tell you about it. But I am trying to avoid beef. Beef with the Republican Party. That's fine. Alright. Now we're doing shit. Alright, who's gonna be a mod? Sorry, some people are just added as mods. You're standard moderators. Stan mods. And we do stan a mod. Yeah. And as soon as Skeptics and Scoundrels gets back in here, we're going to be doing that too. So yeah, Skeptics and Scoundrels is hopefully going to join us too. He was on and everything, and then his internet just totally crapped the bed right as we were about to go live. So he might be coming in at a later time. But let's get to the business at hand. And to do that, we're going to take a look at the XJW subreddit. All right, so this is Jan Frud Nielsen's Reddit account, friend of the channel. I've interviewed him a couple times as we've talked about the Norway versus Jehovah's Witnesses stuff. If you don't know, Jehovah's Witnesses have been defunded in Norway. Their government charitable religious status has been removed. They're not banned or made illegal or anything. They just don't get any subsidies from the government. Their shunning practices was deemed a violation of human rights because people don't have the freedom to leave the religion without severe consequences. And especially when you consider the fact that minors can get baptized and disfellowshipped, it was a big problem. And so ever since then, really immediately after this judgment, is when the governing body started to change everything. They got rid of the word disfellowshipping. They now just call it removal. People are removed. They changed the word judicial committees, which are the groups of elders who form these tribunals that disfellowship people. Well, they're not called that anymore. They're just called committees of elders, and they don't disfellowship people. They remove people. And so we've got a couple instances of them scrambling recently, and Jan Frud Nielsen has updated us on Watchtower essentially petitioning to get the group its religious status back in Norway. They're going to the authorities and saying, "Hey, we did the things. We followed all of your commands. Can we please have our free money back?" Okay, real quick. I'm going to make a post on Altworldly, just letting people know that we're doing this stream. So let me get a link. How do I do this? Sorry, just going to make a quick community post. Live on Sunday service. But what? There. That's what we want. I accidentally posted the StreamYard link for a second. All right. Good. Good. Now, unfortunately, nobody ever really looks at the community tab, and a lot of times the posts just don't show up, so I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, here we are. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Full screen layout. Oh, it makes me go away when I do that. What if I do this? Hey, all right. You can see that a little bit better. All right, speaking of awkward silent supercuts. Sorry, I'm tired, y'all. I'm a little sleepy this morning, I gotta be honest. I've had a couple late nights recently. And I did just have to take a sip of water. I'm so sorry.
The water of life.
All right, I swear to God, we're gonna get going. We're gonna get going. I was up late recording an interview with someone from Australia, so the time difference is major. There's like a 15-hour time difference. But it was a great interview. I'm really excited to upload it to the channel. Lots of fun stuff coming. Okay, so let's get into Watchtower's embarrassing lies that they're telling to the Norwegian government. Or maybe they're not lies. All right, so we've got, and the link is in the description of this if you want to read it, the link to this Reddit post that has the original documents linked and all that. So this is a ChatGPT translation into English. This is what Watchtower sent to the Ministry of Children and Family Affairs, and they're the ones who held Watchtower to account here, really. So, decisions on denial of state subsidies and loss of registrations for Jehovah's Witnesses, adjustments in Jehovah's Witnesses religious practice regarding limited contact with a person removed from the congregation. Boy, that's a lot of words. Instead of saying religious practice of disfellowshipping, it's the religious practice regarding the limited contact with a person removed from the congregation. We are writing you... I'm going to start over. We are writing to you concerning the ongoing legal case that will be heard by the Borgarting Court of Appeal in February 2024? I think they mean 2025, regarding the validity of administrative decisions based on Jehovah's Witnesses' religious teaching about limited contact with the person who is removed from the congregation or who has voluntarily withdrawn. We would like to inform you about a recent worldwide adjustment in our religious practice in this area. Just so it happens, hey, what do you know? We just did a whole worldwide adjustment based on missing out on a few, $100,000 here and there. The doctrinal adjustment was published worldwide in the study edition of the Watchtower from August 2024. The main adjustments can be summarized as follows. Removal from the congregation remains a last resort. So they say remains a last resort, which is sort of implying that they didn't change anything, because they're saying, no, it was always a last resort. But whatever. Before considering whether someone should be removed from the congregation, the elders will hold several meetings with the person who has committed a serious sin in an effort to help him or her restore their relationship with God. This is slightly different. I haven't had enough time to go into the rest of those leaked Judicial Committee training videos, but one of the illustrative things about them is one of the later videos and these trainings for elders on how to handle judicial committees, they like basically outright say that you only get one chance, that you only meet with the person one time. So that is definitely a change, meeting with someone multiple times in order to move them to repentance. But I don't know, it's also weird because they met with me multiple times when I was being disfellowshipped, and so is it really that difference? I'm not sure. Especially because they says it remains a last resort. Next, when informing an unrepentant sinner, put a pin in that they will be removed from the congregation, the elders will explain that they would like to meet with them again in a few months. If the person is willing to have a new meeting, the elders will warmly encourage them to repent and return. It will be warm, guys. It'll be nice. And we all know what warmth means from elders. It's the elder face and the condescending facial expressions. Even if the person has not changed their attitude at that time, the elders will contact them periodically in the future. Wow, what a loving arrangement. If a baptized minor commits a serious sin, 2 elders will have a discussion with the minor and his or her Christian parents or guardians to understand what the parents have already done to help the child make the necessary changes and repent. If the minor has a positive attitude and the parents manage to reach him or her, the 2 elders may decide that no further action is necessary. It is the parents who have a biblical responsibility to lovingly correct their children. Consequently, it will be even rarer for a baptized minor who has committed a serious sin to be removed from the congregation. Jesus Christ. All right, let me read this next part, and then we'll deconstruct what we've read so far. We would like to emphasize that in the very rare case where a baptized minor would be removed from the congregation, family life and household interactions will continue. Because the parents have a biblical and moral obligation to care for their minor children, they will continue to be responsible for providing for their physical and emotional needs. Oh boy, okay, so a lot to go over here. Okay, Eric is saying Comcast is fucking him over. Not sure when it'll be back. Oh boy, it's unfortunate. We'll see. Oh, I can do a decent RFK impression. It's been a while since I've done it, but RFK would probably say that this has been a rather minor change to the organization. I don't know, is RFK a problematic one to do? I think he's a disgusting enough person that everything is kind of up for grabs with him. But, okay, so this is absolutely absurd, all of this. I think that this does the opposite of what they think it's going to do. Because it sort of just outlines how little has changed. Like, they're so defensive of their previous arrangement, and they clearly feel resentful of the fact that they've been forced into a position where they have to change this stuff, that they're still kind of insisting that they never had a problem to begin with. Like, hey, we still only disfellowships, remove as a last resort, and it was already really rare that a minor is disfellowship, but now it's just even rarer. But they don't discount the possibility. Why would they do that? Why would they not just discount the possibility of a minor being disfellowshipped? Like, that would be a better policy change, in my opinion. I think that would be a genuinely, unambiguously good policy change if minors could not be disfellowshipped. And they're also doing the thing where they're shifting the blame to the parents, and the parents are also Jehovah's Witnesses. And Norway did a really amazing job of detailing the emotional abuse that happens within Jehovah's Witnesses and the silo that you're in, this controlling environment where you have limited contact with the outside world, where you're not allowed to make close friendships. And in shifting the blame to the parents, or shifting the responsibility to the parents, it's disingenuous because the parents are just going to be following Watchtower policy. And because this policy exists and people who are disfellowshipped, removed, are viewed as unclean, as dangers to the congregation's spiritual health, a lot of parents have kicked out their children who are minors. And yes, that is their personal decision. Yes, it's not in writing anywhere, but it's a huge problem, right? And that mentality wouldn't exist if this extreme fear-mongering about unrepentant sinners didn't exist in the first place. Ah, yeah, really good from Karen Booth. There's no need to apologize to the previous young ones who were removed for minor infractions. I was talking about this with a former elder last night, that all of these changes to disfellowshipping, doesn't that mean that all of the previous disfellowshippings they ever did were sort of illegitimate and that they shouldn't have been done that way? If the real loving policy is to meet with people multiple times and to move them to repentance, then what are we doing here? Shouldn't they be apologizing for the previous arrangement? But no, Jeffrey Winder told us there's no need to apologize. There's simply no need. I don't know. They didn't say we will be in contact. They said verbatim, good luck with your kids. Yeah. Oh, thanks for the compliment on the RFK impression. I haven't really, practiced it. Yeah, I'm imagining it did ruin your life as a teenager. I mean, we have family. I've had family. People who were disfellowshipped as minors. And like my uncle, who's an ex-JW now, and now we have a relationship that we weren't allowed to have before. He was kicked out of the home as a minor. He was among... My grandparents ended up having 7 kids. I don't think they did at the time. They probably had 5 kids. And he was kicked out because he was viewed as a spiritual danger to the rest of the family. And the biggest issue that I see here that they're refusing to concede on is the fact that voluntarily leaving for conscientious reasons is still met with the same punishment, the same social ostracization. So they even say here at the very, very beginning, limiting contact with a person who has been removed from the congregation or who has voluntarily withdrawn. So voluntarily withdrawn, what they're not saying here is that's actually viewed as much more dangerous and problematic for witnesses than anything else. Like, sinners can repent and come back, but voluntarily withdraw, like stepping down, leaving Jehovah's Witnesses intentionally because you don't believe it's the truth, that gets you labeled as an apostate, as an opposer. And that, there are no exceptions. It's not just limiting contact. And in fact, Mark Sanderson said very explicitly that we do not associate with apostates. Nothing's changed for them. So, bad job to Watchtower. You did a bad job. Brief water pause, real quick.
My church had been giving me ass to drink. But now I was freely receiving, the water of life.
Yeah, apostates have a right to religious freedom without consequences. Well, not in Jehovah's Witnesses, you don't. Oh, yeah, good for you not getting baptized. I mean, they just really haven't solved the problem. This reinforces what I've been saying in the videos I did rebutting this Watchtower, that they really haven't changed very much at all. People are saying that this weekend's Watchtower is really culty too, and I don't know if I looked at it in detail on the channel, so maybe we can look at that afterwards, because they're studying this August Watchtower right now that details all these changes. All right, let's look at the rest of this crap that they're saying. Congregation members may choose to invite a person who has been removed from the congregation or has withdrawn to a congregation meeting. They may also choose to greet the person and welcome them to the meeting. If the person expresses a desire to return to the congregation, the elders may also arrange for someone in the congregation to study the Bible with them, even if they have not yet been reinstated. A person removed from the congregation who has chosen to withdraw may be reinstated within a few months if they demonstrate genuine repentance. All of these all of this hypothetical stuff, again, underscores the fact that really not a lot has changed, and there's a lot of room for people to still be disfellowshipped for years. I mean, being shunned for months is still not good. If the new policy is, hey, we'll follow up in a few months, well, that means you're being shunned for a few months, and that's still really bad for you mentally. It's also just insulting. And they have no idea. They have no idea how insulting this is because they're delusional and think that they have the truth because it's a cult. But this idea that it's loving, that, no, you don't understand. Witnesses can talk to removed people if the talking they're doing is saying, hey, you should come to the meeting. And people can say hi to you at the meeting and know they can't engage in prolonged conversations. Ridiculous. Really embarrassing. We wish to remind you that Jehovah's Witnesses believe in the Bible's guidance that believers should limit contact with someone who has been removed from the congregation or has been withdrawn. Interesting. That's actually not what the Bible says at all. It says to remove the wicked person from among yourself and to not even eat with such a person. And then they just quote that scripture, so that's not great. The exact extent of this limited contact will depend on each individual's personal circumstances and conscience. So they're still lying about that. They're still saying it's a conscience matter when it is definitively not. And in fact, a huge part of the litigation that happened was proving that they were lying about this, that it's not a personal decision that witnesses make, that this is a mandated thing from the top down. Regardless of circumstances, Jehovah's Witnesses believe the Bible encourages us to show love and respect for all people, including those who previously shared our faith. Within the same household, there is no change in social contact. Marriage and family life will continue as before. So they just lie about this. I mean, they're just saying that if you still live at home, your family, it's not like they have to treat you like you're dead in the home. And I mean, I can say this is true. When I was disfellowshipped, Christina was not pressured to shun me, but you know what she was pressured to do? Leave me, because that's kind of an unofficial mandate in the group. Let's put a pin in unofficial mandates later, by the way. Yeah, they lied in claiming that they addressed those that withdraw in the Watchtower articles. They say nothing about it. Yeah, exactly. The only thing that they say about it at all is in the Mark Sanderson video, where he explicitly says that that has not changed and that they are still hard shunned. He doesn't use that term, but we don't have any contact with that person. And apostates, of course, are not welcomed back to the meetings. People don't follow up. Like the elders will not follow up and have shepherding visits with those who choose to leave voluntarily. And so this is the big problem, right? Because a huge demographic of people who are likely to leave voluntarily are people who suffer sexual abuse from members of the church. So if you are a minor and you're abused by an elder, that experience may very well lead you to believe that this is not the truth. And so you want to no longer be a Jehovah's Witness because you were abused by elders. Well, too bad. That still gets you labeled as an apostate because you voluntarily left. So they're just lying. They're just liars who lie about things. And it's disgusting. So they want all this stuff to be reconsidered, blah, blah, blah. Another interesting thing that happens... Actually, I don't think I have this pulled up. So let me do that. Mr. Ron Pomo in chat there, a moderator extraordinaire, sent me some other documents that I think these are probably also posted. Yes, okay, this was also posted on the XJW subreddit. But this is this expert opinion that was written by Watchtower. Well, sorry, no, it was not written by Watchtower. It was written by a hired academic. I talked about this in the Lies Witnesses Tell About Shunning video, but they'll hire these, like, hack intellectuals who work for groups like Cesner, which is essentially a think tank that provides expert opinions and academic articles in favor of new religious movements, better known as cults. Let's see if this automatically translates. I don't know. I think I was sent... Okay, cool. This is in English, so... it's full of a lot of absolute nonsense. This is from Jean Zermatin, and with sincere thanks to Professor Dr. Roberta Ruggiero. Maybe we can do a little Googling on these folks. I meant to do that earlier this week and didn't. So they had this expert write this opinion, and it's real galaxy brain logic what they do here. 100%. Lying is okay if it's done for Jehovah. That's a huge thing I've been talking about on the channel lately. It's just the sort of mental gymnastics people go through to justify lying for the group. And I think what it is if you view the world as an enemy being ruled by Satan, then it's not immoral to lie to Satan's world. You have to protect the group and perpetuate the group at all costs, and if that means lying to these satanic governments, because, Satan's going to use the legal system and come after them legally, then they can justify anything. So I really have negative 1 billion, thousand, trillion, million respect for these secular academics who sell their souls to the devil here. As you might imagine, this is just complete crap. It's just nonsense. The galaxy brain reasoning that they're going through is like, what you guys aren't considering is that Jehovah's Witness minors, Jehovah's Witness children, actually have the right to be disfellowshipped. One of their inalienable religious rights is to be disfellowshipped. Checkmate, atheists. Here, let's zoom in on this bad boy. Tellingly, the aim here is not to make a critical assessment of each of these questions and answers, but rather to give an objective reading of children's rights, to recall the founding principles of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, particularly from the point of view of the evolution of children's capacities, and to address possible conflicts between children's rights and parents' rights, particularly so many particulars about freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and the autonomous exercise, or not, thereof. Lots of big words to say what he basically says at the very end here. Let's see if I can jump to his conclusion, because all he's doing is just filling up a bunch of page shit. Page shit? God. Can you tell I'm tired? I'm not very loquacious today. He's just like filling up pages with nonsense to make it appear as if he's writing something super smart, but he's mostly just quoting in large blocks their children's rights, and then arguing that children have the right to be Jehovah's Witnesses. And one of the things about being a Jehovah's Witness is you are subject to their discipline. This guy was also used in a case in Japan, and he references Japanese legal cases against Watchtower. Okay. Let's read a couple of choice things here. I would have appreciated it if I could have read that the state could not ignore this reality of the child's capacity to become an actor in his or her own rights, and not just a spectator of decisions taken by others in his or her regard, such as that of the rights of his or her parents, on whom we usually rely for the socialization of children, and finally his contractual responsibility to respect and implement the rights expressed in which also means protecting children against all forms of indoctrination. God damn it, Echo just took a stinky shit. Oh, Echo. I think I gotta play the pet drop.
Our spiritual paradise is a place that has many harmless animals.
Now, what do we mean by this?
I don't know. This was not particularly harmless, in my opinion. You drop one of the stinkiest shits, maybe in the history of Echo's stinky behind. It's really confusing what he's essentially trying to argue here. This unqualified approach seems to me dangerous, as it could lead to an extension of the offenses contained in the Child Abuse and Prevention Act by introducing new notions such as religious education being harmful, or that certain common religious practices which may constitute an offense or offenses. So he's saying, like, well, we also have the right to not be indoctrinated by reality and by what a plurality of experts and psychologists and child development people say is harmful. I mean, this is a slippery slope, people. First, you don't give a religion free money because they practice harmful things. Next thing you know, you're just going to live in a secular, atheist, anarchic state. I don't know. I don't really know what he is saying. Every decision taken concerning children walks a tightrope between the individual case, the nuances, the objective description of the child's personal circumstances, the assessment of needs, all under the pressure of interested or affected parties, parents, communities, the state, through its various administrations, often themselves in conflictual situations, the sometimes divergent opinions of experts, and the subjectivity of decision makers. This is just word salad. This is why clear procedural rules, tried and tested practices, and abundant case law can help those who must decide on the fate of children and promote their harmonious development. But, like, what is he saying here? It's wrong to ostracize children and punish them with shunning just for wanting to change their religion. That's it. That is the Norway position. It is harmful to children to allow them to get baptized into this system where they're beholden to draconian rules, where if they ever are considered an unrepentant sinner or just want to leave the religion, they will be punished. And he's basically saying, like, no, children have a right to be punished by their religion. However, it's hard to see how even well-meaning, unvarnished guidelines can achieve this objective and express a child's rights, spirit, or approach. In my opinion, the adoption of the Q&A on responses to child abuse related to religious beliefs poses several objective problems. There is a strong likelihood that respect for children's rights and parents' rights will not be guaranteed. I'm thinking in particular of the potentially discriminatory nature and content of the guidelines and the danger of extending the criminal notion of child abuse. What? What? What is he saying? If a minor is abused by an elder in Jehovah's Witnesses and wants to leave the religion, that should be their right. What is this slippery slope fallacy that he's spitting where actually not giving Watchtower subsidies is going to make there be more child abuse? Like, what? What's more, the unqualified prescription of the questions and answers are not conducive to taking all precautions into account, and a subject and reality as delicate as freedom of religion as defined in major international texts. Okay. I don't like this guy. I think he sucks. I think he absolutely sucks. It really doesn't make any sense what he's saying. What am I missing, chat? What is it? Why is it referenced to Japanese? There was another case that happened with Watchtower, and they used this guy as an expert witness in the middle of the Venn diagram of JWs and NAMBLA arguing for the autonomy of children. Chandler, chill. This doc is on a site called JWs in Japan. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That is not what's happening. Like, Gene Shitterman, or whatever your name is, that's not what's happening.
That is not what is happening. That is not what is happening.
Gene, that's not what's happening. This isn't complicated at all, actually. Children should have a right to not be forced into their parents' religion, and everybody, regardless of their age, should be able to change their religion without consequences that are mandated from the religion. I mean, I agree that he did not make a critical assessment of the material. I'm just scrolling through this because I'm like, what is he even saying? Like, does he mention removal? He doesn't mention disfellowshipping. He doesn't mention Jehovah's Witnesses at all. So, like, what even is this? Weird. Bad job, Professor Zermatten. Didn't care for that. Well, one of the things that Jehovah's Witnesses, yeah, they shouldn't be baptized in the first place. I agree. Maybe just don't baptize minors. Like, blah. All right, so another interesting thing that happened, this was pointed out on a very smart user called Careful Examiner. Great catch. This was just posted yesterday. This person said, didn't notice the Sonia Erickson video was featured in the Enjoy Life Forever study book. Now the video has been removed and the entire paragraph has been replaced. So if you don't know what this means, there was this infamous video, this one right here, Loyally Uphold Jehovah's Judgments, and there was another one called Shun Unrepentant Wrongdoers. It was a big problem when Jehovah's Witnesses were arguing, and regularly arguing in court, that they don't shun people, and they don't even use that term, really. And then if you just search the word shunning on the website, you would just find this video, which clearly outlined how disfellowshipping worked. So I think we talked about this on the last stream, but they removed this infamous shunning video. But this person remembered, this disfellowshipping stuff is actually in their study publication, the publication that witnesses use when they are bringing in someone into the group. Like when someone is becoming a Jehovah's Witness, they study this book called Enjoy Life Forever. There's links to videos and material on jw.org. And so obviously they get into disfellowshipping eventually. And this video was like part of the curriculum. So here's what it said before. How disfellowshipping helps. And this is their newest study publication. It's just a couple years old at this point. If a person who has committed a serious sin refuses to follow Jehovah's standards, he can no longer be part of the congregation. He is disfellowshipped, and we do not associate with him or even speak with him. Read these scriptures and then discuss this question. Just as leaven ferments bread dough, how would associating with an unrepentant sinner affect the congregation? Many who have been disfellowshipped have later returned to the congregation because the discipline, although painful, brought them to their senses. And then they have them watch this video. So here's what it says now. They totally got rid of the second paragraph. They removed the word disfellowshipping, and they got rid of this video. So it says, Jehovah shows mercy to sinners. If a person who has committed a serious sin refuses to follow Jehovah's standards, he is removed from the congregation, and we do not socialize with him. So they kept that. They got rid of the part where they said, or even speak with him. But, I mean, what does not socialize mean? I mean, that's what that means to me. So then they have you read the same verse, and they ask the question, just as leaven ferments bread dough, how would socializing with an unrepentant sinner affect the congregation? They haven't really changed that much. In imitation of Jehovah's mercy toward imperfect sinners, elders reach out and help those who have been removed from the congregation. Many have returned to the congregation because the discipline, although painful, brought them to their senses. How does the way Jehovah deals with sinners show that he is reasonable, merciful, and loving? I mean, just to underscore this point, this is all their framing, that they only remove unrepentant sinners. But lest we forget, one of the most grave sins a person can commit is questioning the governing body, thinking that maybe they're not actually Jehovah/Jesus' chosen representatives on earth, or just thinking that Jehovah's Witnesses don't have the true religion. Like, that's a sin. That is a serious sin. If you just leave of your own free will, that's the most serious sin of all. So they got rid of this stuff in a really weaselly way, but then they didn't actually... I don't know. Is this better? I guess it's a little bit less black and white, but again, they just have changed the words. They've just have changed the word disfellowshipping to removal. And I don't know that that's actually better from their standpoint. Okay, so I'm looking for the Watchtower for this week, and it's just funny. I'm scrolling down to the week's meeting that they're doing, and oh, look at that. There's a big article on giving money. Just putting a coin in the contribution box. All right, help for those who are removed from the congregation. So this is the article that Jehovah's Witnesses are studying today. Those who are not on the Sunday service, Alt Worldly Edition, are at their Sunday meetings. Right up top, I don't know that this is super helpful, but if I was in a government who is trying to hold Jehovah's Witnesses to account, I might take note of the song that they sang at this meeting. Song 123, loyally submitting to theocratic order, which, terrifying. That sounds like it could be the national anthem for the United States going forward. Loyally submitting to theocratic order. That's what they're singing melodically at the top of the meeting. Very creepy. Sentence one, and this is the loving new arrangement, by the way. First sentence, Jehovah is not a permissive God. He does not condone sin. He requires that we respect his righteous standards, which he has set forth for us in his word. Of course, Jehovah does not expect perfection from imperfect people, but at the same time, he does not tolerate ungodly men who turn his undeserved kindness into an excuse for brazen conduct. Indeed, the Bible speaks of the destruction of the ungodly at God's war of Armageddon. However, Jehovah doesn't want anyone to suffer destruction. He just will. He just absolutely will destroy them in the war that's coming soon for anyone who does not submit to the theocratic order. What do they think they're doing? What do they think they're doing? It's really creepy. I don't think that this is a win. I don't think that they're winning this argument. It's super creepy. Like, music should not be about loving our corporate overlords by our obedience. Very, very creepy indeed. I picked the wrong morning to quit huffing glue. Whoa! Based dial, zooming the meeting and watching this at the same time. That's amazing. Is it one of those things where, like, if you sync up the Sunday service stream and the Sunday meeting of Jehovah's Witnesses and Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon and watch Wizard of Oz at the same time, you just have some kind of galactic orgasm? I'm assuming that's what is happening. That is what's happening. Just the whiplash between Jehovah does not permit your bullshit. He's not permissive. He won't tolerate ungodly people. He's going to destroy them. He doesn't want to, but he will. Christian elders, and here's where the gaslighting really begins. The Bible clearly states that he desires all to retain repentance. Christian elders imitate Jehovah as they patiently try to help wrongdoers to change their ways and be restored to Jehovah's favor. However, not all wrongdoers respond favorably. Some continue in a wrong course despite the elders' repeated efforts to lead them to repentance. What is to be done in such a situation? Absolutely wild. So, like, the way they frame it is that anybody who is removed, it's their fault. It is your fault if you're disfellowshipped because you are an unrepentant sinner. And all the elders are trying to do is to get you to repent. But what if you're falsely accused of something? What if you don't have anything to repent for? What if you just disagree with a certain doctrine and said so out loud, and now the elders are meeting with you and browbeating you until you just say that you agree? That's not good. Very creepy. Let's see here. It's kind of the same thing we're just looking at with leavened bread and all that shit. How then should we view a fellow believer who is removed from the congregation? Although we do not socialize with him, we should view him as a lost sheep, not a lost cause. A sheep that has strayed from the fold may well return. Remember, that lost sheep dedicated himself to Jehovah. Sadly, he is not living up to that dedication at present, and that puts him in a dangerous position. Nevertheless, as long as Jehovah's mercy is available, which it won't always be, his mercy will run out, and then he'll do a vengeful blood murder on the entire earth. Boo. I hate it. Thanks. I hate it. Okay, so they just say the same thing that we read earlier. I want to see what they say about people who leave of their own free will. This is really interesting. In certain circumstances, the elders need to be especially careful before reinstating someone. For example, if a person was guilty of child abuse or apostasy, or if he schemed to end a marriage, the elders would want to be sure that he is truly repentant. They must protect the flock. At the same time, we need to realize that Jehovah will accept back any wrongdoer who shows genuine repentance and stops engaging in wrong conduct. So, like, it's not... If you are disfellowshipped, removed for child sexual abuse, for rape, for molestation, pedophilia, you can come back. there's just special rules that the elders have to triple check and make you really pinky promise that you're really repentant. And just as bad as that, I won't go in on this too much because I talked about this in that video I did about this Watchtower, but I still don't really understand what someone who schemed to end a marriage is. But look what's right next to child abuser: apostasy. So me, somebody who just, I don't think the religion's true, and I made videos and still make them criticizing the group, I am just as bad as a pedophile, according to Watchtower. So that's cool. And let's keep in mind that a lot of people, I did not experience CSA in the organization, but a lot of people who do what I do it because they were victims of abuse, because they survived disgusting abuses by people in power in the organization. And so they use their voice to try and hold the organization to account, to make things safer for Jehovah's Witnesses. Not to tear the religion down, not to burn it to the ground, but just to make sure that other children in the religion don't have to go through what they went through. And those people are labeled just as bad as child abusers themselves. So fuck Watchtower. This is absolutely disgusting. What's remarkable? Yeah, I said it right. Remarkable about this is that they think that this is a win. Like, they think they nailed it. They think they solved the problem. They pooped out this article. It was delayed. They consulted with their lawyers, changed all this wording, and then immediately petitioned the Norwegian government to get their money back. Absolutely bananas. Meghan Remarkable. I know, I had like Meghan Markle on the brain. Child abuse, apostasy, or divorce. The three biggest sins in the world. Heinous sins, worse than anything. Dear God, absolutely crazy. It's so gross. You need to be a governing body member to mock beliefs from 5 minutes ago, Jake. Oh, Dr. Dodshemp. Yeah, by the way, like, not for nothing, a lot of the things that I've made fun of on this channel have now just become JW doctrine. I made fun of their UN teaching. I'm not saying there's like a cause and effect. I'm just saying, like, look at the hypocrisy here. The things that I was saying on this channel about the nonsensicalness of their UN doctrine or the beard doctrine, that kind of stuff got me disfellowship. But now Jeffrey Jackson can just go on stage and make fun of that stuff because how silly we were. We're changing it now. Disgusting. We need a palate cleanser. We need to get enough of this. Enough of this disgusting, horrible stuff. It's poisoning our brains. Just looking at this. Oh, God. I don't even know. This is a weird thing to say. But it's like, I feel like when I see this stuff, I just need my mommy.
Mommy, when I get out, call me Sammy.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to show that I finally did render that clip so I could play it now on stream.
When I get out, call me Sammy. Samuel Hurd has a few things to say about mothers and mommy's breasts.
Very creepy. Very creepy. All right. That was nightmarish. Don't care for that at all. All right, so we're not going to talk about the new governing body update because that's on the agenda for tomorrow. But we do have a new broadcast, sort of. I feel like I just talked about the Gilead graduation. You know what it is? I talked about the, talk portion of the Gilead graduation. And I forgot they said that they were going to be releasing a part 2. And the part 2 is what's up now, I guess. It's the fun part of the Gilead graduation. And I've really never watched this before. Maybe I have, but I don't really remember. Oh no, it's the bug guy. It's Bugsy Exoskeleton. Oh God, he's back. I don't like bugs. But wait, no, it can't be from the same one because he's got a beard now, and he didn't have a beard when in the first part. Hey, look, it's the intro. That's not what's happening. I think we have talked about at least one of these before because I seem to recall that if you speed this up, it kind of sounds like a Sonic song. Like it sounds like the first level of Sonic Adventure. Amazing. All right. So now we're doing the inside story, one of the best features on jw.org. We love it so much. The inside story. This is just like an interview thing. They just interview witnesses about their experiences. But now Bugsy Exoskeleton Man has a beard. He grew a beard in between segments of the Gilead graduation. Can somebody in chat let me know, like, what the hell is happening here? Like, what is this? The second part of the graduation that I talked about earlier with the shovel the coal thing, or is this like they just had another Gilead graduation? Because I feel like that's a fairly recent video of mine. Oh wow, great call. Somebody on the far, yeah. Okay, look on the far right of the screen. That guy's wearing basically Uggs. Yeah, the layout's different. They're really changing the format in Late Night with the Devil, J-Dub version. I still haven't watched that yet. Is it worth it? I feel like I've heard mixed things. I loved the idea, and I can't remember that actor's name who's in it, but he's always great. I like that guy. Nice pyramid logo. They're really not beating the allegations, are they? They're not beating the allegations. Like, nobody's making them put the pyramid on there. Gilead used to be so exclusive and top teaching about the Bible and how to be good preachers. Gilead is now just a fraction of what it used to be. At least that's what it seems. Well, I think like when I was a witness, I liked that they were releasing this stuff because it did feel like, oh, okay, it's not top secret. But the thing that is top secret is the actual training, the actual Gilead classes. And I think there's a good reason for that because, you know, there was that Anthony Morris talk that leaked, which was like a Gilead, him teaching a Gilead class. And it's very informal and creepy. It has things like him saying that everybody there is a Bible scholar, and they have better Bible scholars than the world. It also has that scene where he just tells this anecdote apropos of nothing about telling a woman to shut up who was talking too much. So I don't think we're going to be seeing that stuff on the website ever. Yeah, it is more Art Deco-ish. What it looks like is the signs on the buildings in BioShock. I sped this up a little bit.
Welcome to this edition of the Inside Story. Today, we will get to know 6 of the 48 students representing the 156th class of Gilead.
Are they better than everyone else?
To my left, I have Sister Hanta Razafmandimbi from Madagascar.
Whoa!
Next to Hanta is Adalia and Manny Luna from the United States. To my far right is Simon and Yoshi Hori from Japan. And last but not least, we have Brother Marco Caproni from Italy.
Wow,
Welcome
single
to all
man.
6 of you, and we look forward to hearing what you have to
Or wait,
share
no,
with
there's
us.
one single lady.
Why don't we
all the
start
single ladies
by first hearing
is one.
how long you've been in your respective Bethels and what your current assignments are. Why don't we start with you, Hanta?
I've been serving at the Madagascar Bethel for 24 years.
Nice.
And currently I'm serving in one of the translation teams there.
Excellent. Adalia?
We are currently
Excellent.
serving in the United States branch, Walk Hill
I
Complex,
don't like
for about
bugs.
13 years. And my assignment is actually a split assignment between food service and healthcare department.
Okay, very good. Manny?
And I, along with Adalia, have been serving at the United States branch for about 13 years, and I currently work with the service department.
Very good.
So we don't care about titles. Everyone's equal in this organization. But some people, we list their impressive resumes and put them on TV and talk about how amazing and spiritual they are.
Let's switch over to you, Simon, please.
I have been in the Japan branch for 16 years, and my assignment is the computer department.
This mustache is a mistake. I love his bow tie. Looks great. His suit is cool. This mustache is disgusting.
Okay, very good. And Yoshi?
And I've been in the Japan branch for 6 years, and now I serve in the legal department.
Okay, very good. And
Legal department. What does she do in the legal department? I guess this is problematic of me, but I kind of did not imagine women working in the legal department, just given the nature of what they do. Although maybe they siphon off what each person's allowed to know. I don't know. Like, is she dealing with CSA cases?
please, Marco.
I've been serving Italy branch in Rome for 18 years. And actually, I'm serving in the Public Information Department.
Excellent.
PID guy. Now, it's a good thing Robert Hendricks isn't sitting where Bugsy is sitting, because then his knee would be firmly pressed against this guy. What's his name again?
Learn a little bit about you. Let's start off with Simon. Simon.
He's saying Simon. Or he's saying Simon.
He was baptized at 10 years of age.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about what your father did to help you make spiritual progress at such a young age?
Oh, God, this is going to be boring, huh?
My father was very creative.
Explain.
Explain.
For example, as a family, we enjoyed playing a game named Bible Golf.
Okay.
Oh, they practiced that little golf swing.
It's
How
a
cute.
simple game. So the winner is whoever can open to a specific Bible verse in the fewest attempt. So if I can open the verse in the first attempt, it's a hole in one.
All right.
And 3 attempts is a birdie. Something like this.
Oh, I hate that. That sounds like a nightmare. It's not fun. That's not a game. This is really bad. I don't know if we can watch this. This isn't your average everyday boring. This is advanced boring.
And another game I can still remember is Jehovah's Witnesses Game of Life, which is a board game.
Do you have babies in that one?
On it, and you can start from outside circle, which represents non-witness life.
Non-witness life, okay.
And if you progress properly, Bible study and dedication, assembly, or convention, then you can enter into inner circle, which represent witness life.
Aha! And they just released this on purpose? They just released this on purpose? Really creepy. I don't know. Gubber Wobber. They're not a Mason cult. Why can't they just be this cult that we know they are?
But there is a time limit called Armageddon. So when the alarm goes off, you can enter into paradise if you are in the inner circle. And it's so much fun because there are also stumbling blocks along the way.
And your father came up with this game?
Yes.
Well, obviously.
No, that was created by the branch. Oh, boy, I don't know. I don't know if I can deal with the inside story. This is really rough. Yeah, no. I don't think so. I think we gotta call the boring police on this and report a crime. Yes, officer, this video right here. Alright, let's see what else we got, because this is rough. Trust in Jehovah. Is this just from the Gilead graduation? Garrett Loesch is also boring. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Maybe this stuff isn't the inside story.
And we get to look at William Malenfant, who gets to tell us about the Gilead graduation.
Welcome to JW Broadcasting for November 2024.
I mean, guys, I made like an hour-and-a-half long video about the Mason thing. It's not like I've never heard what you're saying before.
On September 14th, 2024, the 156th class of Gilead graduated. This is the culmination of 5 months of intensive study and spiritual refinement. What kind words of encouragement lie in store in this graduation?
Kind words are in store for us. Kind words, those.
Look for something that you can apply in your life.
For our introductory chairman comments, we thought we'd talk for just a couple of moments about what a privilege it is to be used by Jehovah.
Oh.
And when we were kids, sometimes we played games on the schoolyard, didn't we? And maybe if it was a team sport, sometimes there would be 2 captains selected, and then the captains would choose from among the kids playing the game, who was going to be on their team.
Here's a guy who understands sports and games. I wonder if he would enjoy the JW Game of Life, where you try and avoid Armageddon. As I recall, because as a witness, I played just the regular Game of Life from Milton Bradley or whatever, and the goal was like, you get married and have kids and retire.
And what would happen? They would pick the best players first, the most skilled, the most talented, and our goal was just not to be picked last. But that's okay.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that they're... No, come on. Wait a minute, you're deeply involved in occult symbology? That makes you sound like a Mason. That sounds like something a Mason would do. Oh my god. No, listen, obviously Russell was inspired by a lot of Freemasonic imagery and stuff, but there's just no... You're not allowed to be a Freemason if you're a Jehovah's Witness. Isn't that a bit of a problem? Like, you're not allowed to join it because it's a worldly organization. And what's the grand scheme? That they just become... Like, why wouldn't they just join forces? A cult's very diverse. I don't know. I don't think that makes sense. I don't see why anybody would ever put a triangle in anything.
But
also, like, fucking Satan's not real, okay? Like, people who do occult stuff aren't doing anything because there's no such thing as Satan. If they do satanic rituals, that's just kind of embarrassing for them because it doesn't work. It's not going to do anything.
The point of the illustration is that each
I just
captain
am not
had
interested
in
in this
his
at all.
mind what he valued among those potential players, and then that guided his choices. Well, Jehovah has a work to do, and he uses us humans to do an important part of it. But who will Jehovah choose to use in his service? What does he value? What kind of people is Jehovah pleased to use to do his work?
I think really this is not entirely on topic, but like this language of how Jehovah chooses people and draws people to him, like that's important to understand for governments who do want to hold Watchtower to account, because as much as they try and make it seem like, oh, it's all just personal decisions and we don't just follow everything the elders say or blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, the elders are said to have been chosen by God. They are spirit appointed. And we all know that's fake. It's just they talk about who they like, and if they're getting enough service time, and if their wife and kids are in good standing, whatever, right? Like, it's just, it is kind of like they chat about it with the circuit overseer. But they are saying to the members that the elders, circuit overseers, people in positions of power are appointed by God.
Well, on that point, let me make one clarification, a little context. When we talk about in these comments being used by Jehovah, we're not specifically talking about privileges.
To their faces,
privileges come and go.
I do, my dude. I own like grimoires and books on demonology and witchcraft. I wrote a book about the occult and demon possession. It's never brought me close to the demons. They're not real. It's just not real. You know, like, we can explain everything about human evil just with human nature. I don't see anything occult. I see a bunch of bumbling corporate idiots who are desperately trying to keep this cult afloat, you know? The Masons worship Yahweh, but who cares? Like, but here's what I don't understand, though. Why would you care what the Masons believe? It's all just false. It's all fake. Like, I think the Masons are super creepy and cult-like. It's not like I'm defending the Masons. I just am like, we have two separate creepy cults that have similar origins at a similar time in history. Russell was interested in the same kind of pyramidology stuff that Masons were. But anyway, I made a whole video on that.
Very often it's
I don't want to get derailed by that
timing and
shit.
availability and
I'm
need
not
to play a
talking
big
about
part.
it anymore.
But rather, we're talking about being the kind of people who cultivate the spiritual qualities that Jehovah values, and then therefore are useful to him in whatever assignment or work he has to do at a given time.
The whole idea of like your life is to be used by something is also not great in terms of like creating an environment that's rife for abuse. All right, I'm going to just skip ahead because Jeffrey Winter is very boring. No, they're really using a lot of material from their Jesus drama. They're trying to get their money's worth, which I guess is good. Just taking like boring parts of the Bible and being like, they had a theocratic routine that they followed. All right, let's get some clapping though. We love clapter.
And we know that the rest of the program will help us to be the kind of people that Jehovah loves, approves of, and is pleased to use in his service.
Yeah, it's just a men's club.
The next part of the program is the inside story. And the operative word is story, isn't it? Because each one of Jehovah's servants has a story, has a journey with Jehovah. And we always enjoy hearing about some of the stories of our Gilead students.
Whoa.
In this episode of the Inside Story, we will have interviews spanning 4 different countries.
Wait, God damn it! It's just the inside story again? No, we can't escape these guys. Oh my God! And then it's the most boring guy ever. What a dud! What an absolute dud this whole thing is. Oh wait, let's hear him talk about science.
Now let's talk about the universe in our brain.
Ooh.
The book, The Physics Fact Book, edited by Glenn Ellard, says, and I quote, weighing around 3 pounds.
I'm not denying any of that. Like, I don't deny that they have rank and file and an upper elite, but so what? So did the Mormons, so did Scientologists, so does every cult. That's how they work. So, like, why are... I don't really understand why they're the same, and how that would work, and what it would mean. I don't really get it.
The brain contains nearly 100 billion neurons. What's that? Nerve cells. 100
This is a room full of adults. This is a room full of adults who are graduating from a school, and he's explaining what neurons are, just to give you a sense of how good this education is that they're receiving.
Billion neurons. If you don't believe me, you can verify, count yourself, yeah? The brain is the most complicated organ in the universe. One reference work says about these nerve cells that they are as many as the stars in the Milky Way galaxy. It also has trillions of supportive cells.
So because you, in some metaphorical way, smell that Jehovah's Witnesses and Freemasons are, like, in league with each other, that means they definitely are. Like, that's just not true. All cults are really similar. That's part of what this whole channel is about. That's part of what, research into the bite model is about. They all follow very similar things. I'm trying to listen to a scientific dissertation on neurons in the human brain. It's very important, actually.
As the stars in the Milky Way galaxy. It also has trillions of supportive cells called glia. Each neuron is connected to other neurons by as many as 40,000 individual connections.
They're just saying big numbers to be like, wow.
Between the cells.
Isn't it amazing that God made the brain? It's so complicated. It could only be God.
The brain has more connections than there are stars in the universe. End of quote. No question. We are wonderfully made.
Yeah, that's all. That was his entire point.
To Jehovah.
That was his entire point. The only reason why he talked about that at all was just to be like, isn't that amazing how Jehovah made that anyway?
Being aware that Jehovah created this fantastic universe, the earth and man, does this not help us to become more confident in our trust?
That's not true. I didn't say that at all.
Able and willing to help us when we...
That's just literally not true. I literally say that they do have connections. I talk about the connections that they do have to the Masons. I don't think you watched it or paid attention. I mean, it is a critique, but you are mischaracterizing what I said.
Face problems or challenges. Should we face persecution or a ban on our work, then what? Trust in Jehovah.
Oh, okay.
But Jehovah
you just trust.
is not only all-powerful, he is also love personified. Jehovah is very interested in you, soon-to-be Gilead graduates.
Oh, interesting,
yes,
Miriam. Tell us about
all
that.
Of us. He loves us. He gave his beloved Son, Jesus Christ, as a sacrifice for our sins and for the purpose of helping us to become perfect and enjoy everlasting friendship with him. Jehovah had full trust and confidence in his...
Why did they even do this? What even is this? Oh my god. What a dud. I'm sorry to have subjected you all to this. They're just handing out little degrees. It's like handing... Oh wait, let's see what they say. At the because I don't think I've ever watched the end of one of these before. I'm sure it's boring, but hey, while we're here enduring boring shit.
After 5 months of intense Bible study, we are filled with so many emotions that it's hard to find the words to express our appreciation and gratitude. We feel like Isaiah when he saw a vision of Jehovah as described in Isaiah chapter 6. He saw Jehovah in a way he never had before. And the same is true of us. Gilead has helped us to more deeply appreciate Jehovah's beautiful...
Hang on a second. Sean, what are you doing? Give it a year or two and we won't have to convince anyone anymore. This is what Jehovah's Witnesses say. Just give it a year or two. Everyone will realize that they're wrong when the end comes. Like, people have been saying this Freemason Watchtower thing for years, for decades. There's never any more evidence. Don't spread false prophecies in the chat, please.
His matchless wisdom.
I'm sure it's just around the corner.
Love. Like Isaiah, at times, we felt
Out of context,
overwhelmed
you
with
just
our
fuck. I
imperfections and
quoted what you
limitations.
said. Jesus
However,
Christ.
just as Jehovah reassured Isaiah through a seraph, Jehovah lovingly encouraged us.
Whoa.
During the
Jehovah? Hang on.
Jehovah lovingly encouraged us.
We need to get. We need to get a read on what just happened here.
Through a seraph, Jehovah lovingly encouraged us.
No. That was a real marble mouth moment.
During the past 20 weeks, we were cared for as a nursing mother tenderly cares.
This is
for her own
1.2
children.
and it's still so slow.
Our instructors became beloved to us as they
This is
shared not only their
1.5.
knowledge and understanding of God's word, but their very selves. We were encouraged to always give Jehovah our best,
This is so white, by the way.
to lower ourselves, and to lift others up. We learned the value of not taking
And there's
ourselves
the
too
Japanese
seriously,
couple.
and to cherish our journey with Jehovah. We also deeply appreciate our dear governing body. Despite your very busy schedules, you made time for us. Your heartfelt lectures motivated us to be courageous.
Look at the
and to not fear the
nods.
challenges we will face. We will never forget your example of kindness, humility, and love. In imitating your faith, we are determined to remain loyal and submissive to Jehovah and his organization as we go out to our assignments.
Submissive to Jehovah and his organization. So they go out of their way in this little graduation ceremony to be like, and we sure love the governing body, don't we?
Finally,
Ugh.
our education went beyond the Gilead classroom. We saw
Okay,
hospitality
Sean, so you're
defined
just a troll.
by you, dear brothers and sisters of the United States Bethel family. Your kindness and generosity were outstanding. We were simply basking in your love. And although we did not have enough time to get to know each one of you,
I would,
there
that
was
would be
enough time
good.
to fall in
I want
love.
to try and talk about more cults for sure.
We will never be able to thank our Heavenly Father enough for this unique experience. We now echo the words of Isaiah, who declared, even before
I saw
receiving
that.
the details of his new assignment, "Here I am, send me, send me."
Is he
As
getting
we depart
choked
to our
up?
respective assignments, we are confident, thanks to this beautiful training, that Jehovah will make us.
Okay, I want to just, for contrast, by the way, because he's still talking, in my opinion, pretty slow. Let's hear his normal talking speed, just for contrast.
Thanks to this beautiful training, that Jehovah will make us firm and he will make us strong.
Good God.
With hearts full of gratitude and love.
It's genuinely difficult to talk as slow as this guy talks. It's impressive. Well, Gilead's fucking boring. And I made a mistake, and I apologize for subjecting everybody to that. What a nightmare. What an absolute... Oh. You can watch this. Latest videos. We got Harold Corker, and he's also very boring. Shit, I don't know. All this stuff's kind of boring. Organizational accomplishments. Principles of divine oversight. Ooh, I do want to watch this, because this is boring, creepy cult stuff that I actually like. Yeah, Scientology would be a good. If you've watched some recent videos, I've tried to talk about them a little bit more. I think that Mike Rinder in particular is a really interesting guy to look at because his job was to lie for the group. You know, he was one of their PR guys, and I think that's kind of valuable. It's a valuable insight into cult mentality. Why people lie for the group, why people in leadership positions lie for the group, because the governing body lie all the time. These guys lie all the time. It's true. It's true. I love it. I love it. And I also regularly worship Satan. I love this stuff. I really do. I mean, this kind of silly intro music they do, it's really fun. I enjoy it. Hey, bye, Ron. Hope you have a good rest of your Sunday, too. Okay, let me start a little poll, by the way, in terms of what we can go do next, because... Oh god, this is going to be a whole thing. Is everybody here subscribed, by the way? We need everyone to be subscribed to the channel. We need everyone to like the stream. Start a poll. Talk about or actually maybe Scientology stuff. That could be fun. We could look at some Scientology stuff. All right, I did a poll as to what we can talk about next. But I want to look at this because this is the Personnel Committee Department. Ooh, and I had a relative for a while. I don't know if he still works in the Personnel Department, but he might. So we'll see. I might see family. Might see family in this.
Jehovah's people are hard at work.
Hey, everybody.
As our
It's
organization
me, Mark
continues to
Scott.
expand, the need to identify and train qualified brothers as overseers grows. The February 2024 study edition of the Watchtower
Oh my god, we gotta grow our brothers and overseers, everybody. We just have to.
explained. For decades, the brothers of the governing body have been training men from among the other sheep.
And only men.
For example, they've organized many schools to train elders, traveling overseers, branch committee
100%
members,
let one be.
overseers at Bethel, and others. In harmony with these efforts, at the 2022 annual meeting,
Yes, I've been hearing good things about Heretic from everybody. I keep having XJW say, "Oh, you guys got to see Heretic." We've got movie tickets just sitting and waiting. We meant to see Alien, the new Alien movie, Romulus, and then we both got sick. So I've just got Fandango credits for 2 tickets to a movie. I think we're gonna have to make a Heretic. Probably won't happen today, but I'm excited for that one. And what else did we? Oh. The Substance, but I talked about that in the last
meeting, it was announced that there would be a new
great.
school.
Watch The Substance. It's
Principles of Divine Oversight. This program would train Bethel and construction overseers, as well as younger brothers with good potential, to follow the divine pattern of oversight exemplified by our God Jehovah
Oh my
and His
God,
Son
how
and our
crazy.
King Jesus Christ. Let's take an in-depth look at this upbuilding course.
This is an upbuilding course about King Daddy
lectures
Jesus.
from members of the governing body and insightful comments from seasoned overseers from around.
Oh, hey, look, it's the creepy guy who kept talking about the Jews in the annual meeting, and I made a kind of mean supercut of him. Boy, this is what I want to see. If there's any Bethel people who want to leak stuff, any kind of like these internal videos, send it to me. And by the way, if you ever want to send me something just so I can see it, but, don't want me to show it on the channel, let me know. I will always check before I share stuff. So if you ever have something you want to share, but just for, posterity, not to share on the internet, let me know. I do want to kind of try and accumulate some dirt, try and get some stories from inside Bethel. The inside story, you might call it.
World. It also includes 12 stimulating workshops, and these workshops allow the brothers in class to be able to just interact together and have some very lively discussions.
Stimulating.
Those 12 workshops are divided into 3 sections: select, train, trust.
Hashtag not my Jehovah's Witnesses. No brother would walk up on stage with this pubic clump under his chin. I don't like this.
So yes, while the school is aimed at helping an overseer to improve.
So, I don't know. Select, train, and then trust. So just trust is one of the principles. Again, not great when your religion already has a culture of implicit trust that creates an abusive environment.
His personal skills, he must also be able to do those 3 things. He must be able to select identify brothers who have potential for the future, train them, have a plan, and implement a training plan, and then trust them by assigning them responsible
guys in
tasks
this video?
and sharing his experience with them.
When you get to the workshop discussions, despite their inadequacy, what you see is
Wow, someone try and pronounce that name.
all the brothers are feeling the same. And you get
tricky
an
one.
opportunity to talk to more experienced brothers, but you see that they're facing the same thing as you. So those discussions really were opportunities for us to sharpen each other and keep each other going.
Sharpen
Along
each
with
other,
engaging
eh?
discussions, there are 70 true-to-life videos. They provide good
70?
and not so good examples of oversight.
Oh, so this is where our recent leaks have come from, is from this stuff. This is the same exact set as, stay tuned, I'm going to upload this segment from Sunday service that I did with another XJW where we talked about some circuit overseer training videos that leaked, and it's all this kind of stuff. So I guess this must be from the personnel department. Interesting.
In action, and it covers a broad section of Bethel and construction settings. The videos range
This
from
is what we need
dealing
to
with
see right
feelings
here.
of being overwhelmed.
Hey, it is the guy from the drama. This is the guy who says Taco is my favorite, and that he's just so angry. You know, he never really seems that angry in the drama. He just talks about how he is
remote
angry.
volunteers and commuters to delegating like Jehovah and Jesus Christ.
In addition to overseers and assistant overseers, young brothers with fine potential are invited to attend as well.
All right, Christian
Why
nationalism on the
cast a
pole.
wide net to include in the school younger brothers who are not yet assigned as overseers?
Young brothers are being asked to take on more responsibility at a younger age. Enrolling them in PDO, it gives them the tools that they need to be successful in the assignments that they're given. The recommendation was,
What a creepy image. This guy just talking about, we're appointing younger and younger men. And then they just show essentially like these teenagers with patchy beards doing corporate stuff in a sterile environment.
for overseers, for assistant overseers, of course, to be invited. But also in
Rage
there, younger
tacos.
brothers, inexperienced brothers are also asked to attend. And so you have a nice mix. You have a mix of experience, you have a mix of inexperience, and what that does is it gives you a well-rounded out class. And it just leads to a good learning experience all around.
Because of my limited experience, at first I was shocked to see that I was invited, but really getting to see how Jehovah was investing in me really encouraged me to want to put forth more effort. and
Has
try
it
to
been
get back
covered
to
by
the organization.
every ex-religious YouTuber ever?
Even though customs may vary from country to country,
You know, so is Jehovah's
divine
Witnesses.
principles of oversight
Yeah,
are
here we
universal,
are.
applying in every land. How have the students benefited?
Hey, look, it's Jeffrey Jackson. What is this? He's got a little drawing of a house, a little cartoon drawing of a house and some bubble letters. What a fun class. I wish we could see what that is.
And what have been the results at the branches?
The class helped me to appreciate that to accomplish my assignment well, it's not just about hitting deadlines or accomplishing the work, more is involved with that. It really highlighted that Jehovah's priority was always the welfare of his people. So
Jehovah
that
and
should
his
be my
welfare
priority,
nanny
people.
state.
So people come before things like efficiency or productivity. And the class taught me there are lots of things I can improve on. Things like helping the brothers and sisters to enjoy their assignment more. Things like training and delegation. And just getting to know the brothers and sisters better, their personal circumstances, and supporting them. Because when the brothers and sisters are happy, then the work takes care of itself.
It's always been good to work with my overseer, but after he went to the PDO school, it's become even better to work with him. One thing I've noticed after the PDO school is
have to
the way
say,
he
I
handles
feel like
everything. He takes
Scientology is
time
a
to
way
listen to me,
more,
and he
way
listens
more
to the
covered
words that I'm
subject.
saying,
This is a
and
relatively
even the
new
emotions
thing.
that I'm showing. And then he asks, "What do you think we can do?" I know with my overseer I am trusted, and he values my
Okay, well, she's stunning, and I don't like to be lascivious on stream, but they just always have very traditionally beautiful people in their videos.
opinion because a lot of times
And then
he-
also the guy who sounds essentially like Goofy, who's hosting this, like,
Hey, Max, we're going to take a look at the things today.
uses it. And even if he doesn't use it, the way he listens to me makes me feel that I'm valued.
Usually, for people to go learn oversight or
makes you
learn
feel
management,
like you're valued, but
lots
you
of
might not
books
be.
and years of studying. To put all of that into 1 week was really what made the school special. Seeing the priorities of a good overseer, someone who's focused on not only the work and the assignment, but more focused on the people and following Jehovah's example of shepherding and then training those under direct oversight.
I appreciated the emphasis placed on an
Okay, enough of this. I can't. This is I think we got it. We got the gist. Speaking of traditionally attractive people in videos. All right. Well, let's see here. Oh, this is the Sunday service thing. Let me pull up my ad-free thingy. I found this... Oh, man. Look at this. The Line is doing a stream right now, and they're doing atheists versus Christian nationalists. Devastating. That's where all my viewers are going. They're going where I would go. Nationalism, freedom from religion. Yeah, okay. I thought that this was a really useful overview. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. A lot of stuff has been covered by a lot of different people. Recount the votes. Stop the count. I thought that this was a really good lecture. It was like an overview of what this
that
is.
So meaningful to me. When I was searching for people to name, when I was searching for inspiration to name my first child, I remember weighing whether the name Clarence had been so tainted by a more well.
Hang on a second. We're get enough of your silliness.
So much to me, and I have to apologize after the last speaker. There's not going to be as much that's funny in my presentation. So as you just heard, you know, my first book, Kingdom Coming: The Rise of Christian Nationalism, is 18 years old. I started working on it 20 years old. When I started writing it, Christian nationalism wasn't a buzzword. It was something I had to explain every time I spoke about it. And I'd become aware of the strength of that movement, or the kind of growing strength of that movement, during another presidential election. It was 2004, and George W. Bush was running for re-election against John Kerry, and I was in Ohio. And something you kept hearing from Democrats in Ohio was, where are they? Like, where is the ground game? You know, they were out on the streets going door to door, and they just didn't see the Republican operation. And it made them both nervous and cocky at the same time. But where they were was in the churches. And I had seen that, although I wasn't entirely sure what to make of it, but I had started going to mega churches in Ohio,
Let me speed
seeing
this up.
both the way that they were railing against the kind of abomination of gay marriage, tying that to a Get Out the Vote program, and doing a lot of this organizing right inside of the churches. And so that became, once George W. Bush won, and won on the strength, according to at least one survey, of quote-unquote moral issues, I said, you know, I want to kind of go deeper into this movement and also understand why so many people had missed it in 2004. So here's how I described the movement at the time. The United States has always been a pious country, given to bursts of spiritual fervor, but Christian nationalism is qualitatively different from earlier religious revivals. Like America's past Great Awakenings, the Christian nationalist movement claims that the Bible is absolutely and literally true. But it goes much further, extrapolating a total political program from that truth and yoking that program to a political party. It is a conflate.
Okay, so what she's talking about, like the Great Awakenings, that's actually the movement, the Great Awakening, that birthed Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons and the Seventh-day Adventists, too. Literalist Bible movement. So she's kind of saying that the modern Christian nationalism is kind of part of this new Great Awakening movement, which I find really interesting. I found this, yes, like Speaker Mike Johnson is a serious Christian nationalist, and the Supreme Court people, what do they call them, justices? Samuel Alito and his wife Martha Ann, they are also Christian nationalists. They flew, you know, a Christian nationalist flag outside their vacation home. That was found after there was that reporting about them flying their upside-down flag after January 6th. And so a lot of people in government are a part of this movement. J.D. Vance, on the campaign trail, spoke at these Christian nationalist things. They were praying for Trump. They view the Democratic Party as like a demonic, satanic evil. And I think that Trump is, not a Christian in anything, but he understands the power of this base. He understands that these are his people, and a broad coalition of voters voted him to power. So I'm not saying that like everybody who voted for Trump is a Christian nationalist, but this movement I think is really important to understanding what Project 2025 is, what their agenda is for this term. It is a Christian nationalist plan written by the Heritage Center.
Of scripture and politics that sees America's triumphs as confirmation of the truth of the Christian religion and America's struggles as part of a cosmic contest between God and the devil. It claims supernatural sanction for its campaign of national renewal, and speaks rapturously about vanquishing the millions of Americans who would stand in its way. And the motivating dream, then and now, of Christian nationalism is a restored Christian nation. And that doesn't mean that me or you wouldn't get to live here anymore, but it does mean that we would be expected to know our place.
Yeah, so this is a big difference between like Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, who have basically all of this same Armageddon rhetoric, and that they are the true people, and that God's going to kill all of the sinners, and the earth is going to be restored to true worship, and everyone will be a part of this religion. This is like America itself. Its very foundation was Christian, and the Constitution is a Christian text, and the struggles that we have had as a nation are struggles against, liberal Satanists.
20 years later, the description of the movement largely holds up, but a lot has changed. Today, the movement is far larger, far more apocalyptic.
Sean, you're an interesting guy. I can't figure you out.
I'm going to talk a little bit about how that happened and how it's come closer to power than ever before. So today's Christian nationalist movement, like the one I wrote about, has several antecedents.
Yeah, okay. It's a good comment from Skylar Black. While I was at JW, I started researching this topic because the amount of Christians that supported Donald Trump, I was curious about those believing he'd usher in some false sense of peace and security. Yeah, well, I think that this is a really interesting question, right? Like, what I have a hard time understanding, just on a gut level, is like, how do Christians vote for Trump at all? Just like, even if you're like a single issue voter and that issue is abortion, he just himself seems to go completely against so many Christian ideals, his past, his various affairs and all of his different marriages, and the way he talks, the way he clearly doesn't know anything about the Bible. It just, he's not exactly a Christian guy. He's a complete opposite of what you would think of as Christ-like behavior. And the way that she goes on to explain how they thread this needle is really interesting.
The most significant are the Depression-era fundamentalist preachers and Nazi sympathizers, Gerald B. Winrod and Gerald L.K. Smith. They railed against communism, modernism, and big government, and, in Winrod's case, Darwinism, and peddled a right-wing gospel conflating Christianity and patriotism. Smith founded a group called the Christian Nationalist Crusade, whose magazine, The Cross and the Flag, claimed Christian character is the basis of all real Americanism. And as John Gantz writes in his great new book, When the Clock Broke, Smith became the chief propagandist for the populist authoritarian Huey Long, whose third-party presidential campaign against FDR prefigured Trumpism in many important ways. Now, the movement also has its roots in the John Birch Society, which was a paranoid, ultra-right, anti-communist movement founded in the late 50s that saw liberals as traitors seeking to replace the nations of the West with one world socialist government. And something you might have noticed if you follow if you follow kind of the trajectory of the Republican Party is the degree to which Bircher language, especially about communists, the complete conflation of liberalism and communism, and the conviction that there is some dark conspiracy in the Democratic Party kind of against all that is good and holy and against the future of the Republic, has just become it's become so much a part of Republican rhetoric that we almost don't notice it. But even 10 years.
Yeah, this is another thing that like right-wing media now just echoes this completely, and that's one of the things that liberals have had to reckon with after this devastating, like this surprisingly concrete Trump victory. That like it wasn't just like an electoral victory, but like the popular vote and all this stuff, is like just realizing that the media environment that conservatives are in is so completely different. And all that, like if you're a Fox News viewer, all that you hear all day, every day for years is that the Democratic Party are like secret communists who want to instill a one world socialist government, which is completely insane. You know, the party pushes out actual socialists and communists. The reason why they lost is that they were kind of boring centrists and maybe they didn't embrace the working class enough. But there's this other group of people who view them as like an ontological evil, and that's just completely normalized now.
Years ago, this was quite striking, and it really kind of comes straight from the John Birch Society, which was a movement that at one point some on the right had tried to marginalize.
Yes, 100%.
William F. Buckley, I think not because he saw it as beyond the pale, but because he saw it as bad PR. He basically saw it as something that allowed conservatism to be dismissed, but has now very much there kind of are no more lions in this conservative movement in this Republican Party, and so it's come roaring back. Some of you might know the Left Behind books. They were popular they were popular when I was writing Kingdom Coming. They're these novels that kind of imagine in salacious and pornographic detail the tribulations that all of us will experience after the rapture when we are left behind to like gasp at how right all the people who are gone were. And so, but Tim LaHaye is someone who got his start as a John Birch organizer. But the movement that we know as a Christian right, the sort of substrate of today's Christian nationalism, was born in the late 70s when a group of right-wing strategists and veterans of the Barry Goldwater campaign recruited a somewhat obscure Baptist televangelist named Jerry Falwell to found the Moral Majority. And they wanted to use issues like abortion to split traditionalists from the Democratic Party, traditionalists who were unnerved by the social upheavals of the 60s and 70s. And they wanted to harness the energy of this nascent evangelical awakening to the Republican Party. Because remember, there did not used to be this natural connection between being born again and being conservative. I mean, our first born again president in modern times was Jimmy Carter. So
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Televangelist and media mogul Pat Robertson, who's the son, incidentally, of a Virginia Democratic senator who was virulently opposed to the civil rights movement, ran for president. And he's important in the story I'm telling here for two reasons. And I hope you'll let me go a little bit down a kind of theological rabbit hole, a little ways down a theological rabbit hole here. But Robertson brought an idea called dominionism into the center of
Wait, Gerber Weber, you're a communist. That's interesting.
Evangelical politics. And dominionism is really key for understanding how the movement is operating today. So dominionism derives from an explicitly theocratic sect called Christian Reconstructionism, which advocates replacing American civil law with Old Testament biblical law, including the death.
So this dominionism stuff is really fascinating to me, and this was like totally new to me. I'd never really heard about this. Christian Reconstructionism, which advocates replacing American civil law with Old Testament biblical law, including the death penalty for crimes like homosexuality and apostasy, and even in some cases, disobedience to your parents. And so you can imagine that even among the very far right, the appeal of this movement is quite limited. It's kind of strict, joyless, Calvinist, quite different from a Christian right that loves rock music and signs and wonders, and kind of has become increasingly enmeshed with Hollywood production values. But its political philosophy, dominionism, has kind of pervaded the broader Christian right. So dominionism bases its claims on the passage in Genesis where God creates Adam and Eve and gives them dominion over the earth. When man fell and was expelled from the Garden of Eden, their dominion was forfeited. But for those who are saved, dominion is restored, which means that God has given Christians the right to rule. So Robertson appropriated this idea. The Lord intends his people to exercise dominion in his name, he told Christianity Today. And he said that while he disagrees with some Reconstructionist theology, I admire many of these teachings because they are in line with Scripture. So in 1984, he told delegates to an evangelical convention that they had to get ready to take over every aspect of secular society. What do all of us do? We get ready to take dominion, he said, predicting the changes were 5 years away. It is all going to be ours. I'm talking about all of it. Everything that you would say is a good part of the secular world. Every means of communication, the news, the television, the radio, the cinema, the arts, the government, the finance, it's going to be ours. God's going to give it to his people. We should prepare to reign and rule with Jesus Christ. It's so crazy. Like, this is so different than... No, I'm not a communist. I mean, I don't necessarily feel that labels are particularly useful. but I generally would consider myself more like a socialist, I guess. Yeah, she's describing a concerted effort to intertwine American Christianity with politics. And yeah, like it's been a fight that has been ongoing. And one thing that Democrats definitely never understood is the way that Republicans can think in these 50-year blocks of time. Their fight against Roe v. Wade was unrelenting from the time Roe v. Wade was passed. And when they would try and gin up some case that they could potentially craft and take in front of the Supreme Court and it would fail, they wouldn't quit. They would just say, okay, well, we learned something, and next time we know what not to do. But they've just always had this goal, and I think that is a huge reason why the Democratic Party failed so conclusively, is because they just always assumed that they didn't have to do all this stuff. Like, they didn't need to create media ecosystems to counteract the right, because people believe in democracy, and if we do democracy, it'll just always kind of work out. And they did not have this long war of attrition over the judiciary and over media that the right had. Well, I think this is a bit of apocryphal history. His supermajority that he had was never quite as conclusive as people like to say in hindsight. I think it's just because I had heard people say that Obama could have codified Roe v. Wade and didn't. And when you look at it, no, there wasn't really a chance for him to actually do that. And I legitimately do think, like, to their detriment, they really didn't think. Like, there was an assumption that once something is a right endowed by the Constitution, that it is settled law, that it can't be overturned. Like, people just think that. And you see that in just the way that people have voted for Trump, like, against their own best self-interest. They just genuinely think, like, well, that can't happen here. Like, this thing he's saying about suppressing dissidents and jailing political opponents or military tribunals, that's just talk. They won't actually do that. And I think a lot of the long failure of the Democratic Party is just thinking, like, well, they won't actually do that, and just, like, completely misunderstanding their opponent.
So dominionism was the impetus behind his presidential run. And while that run failed, his followers learned a huge amount about political organizing. They learned about kind of how to work within the grassroots of the party structure. And the remnants of that campaign formed the foundation of the Christian Coalition, which was founded in 1989. And the Christian Coalition, kind of unlike the moral majority, focused on grassroots politics in a way that might sound familiar to you if you followed kind of school board fights over book banning or gender.
Yeah, this is another thing, school board
trans
fights.
rights or tampons in gender-neutral bathrooms. So it would train activists on the local level so that they would become Republican delegates, they'd run in school board races, they would transform politics from the bottom up. I would rather have 1,000 school board members than one president and no school board members, said Ralph Reed, who was the former president of the Christian Coalition.
This is something that Democrats just never did. They never had this kind of ground-up thing where they're actively recruiting people and filtering them into the movement and assigning them in places where they can be effective. Like, and because of that, there was just this slow tide, this slow shift to the right publicly. At least that's my perception. You know, I'm still learning. And I don't really have a strong perspective on, like, what my political ideology is, other than I think, like, freedom is good, and, like, socially I'm incredibly progressive. I'm not that smart when it comes to the economy, so I don't really claim to have some cohesive sense of what the economy ought to be like. My issue with people who, were communists and like refused to engage electorally is just that it allowed this to happen. Like, it just allowed the right to slowly take over because the left was so divided. Like, communists thinking, oh, no, we can't sully our hands with electoralism. And that kind of stuff was really frustrating to me because I don't think you can say that you're anti-fascist and then just let the guy who's running a fascist campaign win. I'm not saying that about anybody in chat. I'm just saying, like, I always had a hard time understanding how we get from here to there. Like, I would always rather organize and compromise because the reality is we do live in a massive world, in a massive country where, as we now see, the majority of people in the country disagree with us. Like, if you're on the left, you are in the minority, it seems. And so we don't have the luxury of, like, being puritanical and saying, well, no, you're not a real leftist because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, but our fight is against this. It's against this evangelical theocratic movement that's infiltrated every level of society. So whether you call yourself a communist or a socialist or a liberal or whatever, I don't really care. But I think that you have to accept the fact that people don't agree with us. And if we're going to actually gain power and actually fight this, then you're going to have to form coalitions with people who at least have a shared value of fighting this, who at least have a shared value of fighting this. Like, of course the workers should own the means of production, but that can't happen now. That can't happen under Trumpism. Not until the whole fucking thing collapses under its own weight. So it's a nice thing to say, but how? How are you going to do that now? You know what I'm saying? I'm saying the royal you, not you specifically. Yeah, indigenous voices too. So much of this discourse leaves out indigenous society that has outlasted colonialism. I think that's a really good point, actually. Okay, I mean, like, people say this, but, like, how? You go against the U.S. military? I don't really know what you mean. I'm not a violent person generally, too. So it
was really a high point of this movement, right? George W. Bush.
So sometimes, like, the revolutionary rhetoric, to me, I see a lot of fucking people posting. See a lot of people saying, oh, they'll post guillotine memes, but they will also talk about how they're on 8 different medications for the anxiety, and they're just a sad little ooh-woo person. And like, the right has militias, and they have ex-military guys who do drills, and they train, and they ingratiate themselves with the local police. And, like, the left's not doing that. I don't see communists forming militias and ways of combating this fascism. I see a lot of posturing and posting and rhetoric and absolute jack shit to show for it, to be quite honest. I see absolute jack shit to show for all that stuff. So my issue with communism is not like the principles of communism, which I probably agree with, but in the complete refusal to be appealing in any way, to try and draw people into the movement. It's so, like, scolding and holier than thou and exclusionary that it's just like you're speaking a different language from the actual working class people who overwhelmingly voted for Trump because, I don't know, of a complete misunderstanding or willful ignorance of who he was.
Was very much one of their own. He was reelected with their help.
They do, LOL.
22% of voters in one exit poll said that moral values were their chief concern, which was more than Iraq at a time when that war had just started.
Exactly.
It became very obvious, I think, to almost.
And this is my, this is my issue with the, and I think it's the reason why Kamala lost is because they didn't just lean into economic populism and just explain, just run on things that are universally popular. Like, liberals were just, I don't know, afraid of the consultant class who would try, and they want the CEOs on their side. They're rich. They don't want their taxes to go up. But taxing billionaires and universal health care, these are universally popular. They're not extreme positions. And so this is not the argument that this doesn't really address anything I just said. I don't disagree with any of that.
All observers that war, which was always misconceived, was going really horribly wrong. Patrick Henry University, which is a university that was founded to basically take homeschooled kids and train them so that they would be able to take their place in all sorts of elite institutions, it was a tiny, tiny school. It provided 7% of the George W. Bush's White House's interns. And so it's not that the movement was always optimistic, because this is, it's...
I don't understand how that addresses anything I said. Like, I know that all of that is true. But I don't see, like, communists that I know, like, who I'm friends with, but I don't really see them just doing a lot of stuff, generally speaking. You know what I mean? I feel like what you just said earlier, cut a liberal and a fascist bleeds. Well, okay. Liberals make up like 51% of just the population of people. Like, and there was just like a Pew Research study that said like communism and socialism were like two of the most unpopular words in America. Now, could anybody actually define those things? Probably not. Probably nobody could define that, and they probably couldn't define capitalism either. But it's a messaging war. Is how are you convincing people to come over to your side? What don't I get, though? What don't I get? Like, I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. It just doesn't really address what I was saying earlier about, like, how are you convincing people to join your side, you know? But you're talking, like, in these universal terms. Like, that's not... I don't think that every communist, liberal, socialist, like, we're all just people. I definitely would agree that anybody saying they're going to call ICE on Hispanic Trump voters is a piece of shit. But Trump is the one who said Gaza will be a parking lot. Like, they're saying, he said that he would let Netanyahu do whatever he wanted. Like, that's not something that liberals are saying. That's what Trump said he would do. I don't really know what we're fighting about, to be honest. It seems like we agree.
Kind of by nature an apocalyptic movement.
My stance now is just like, if you're on the left, well, we got to all work together now. Like, it doesn't really matter all these labels, because we're now all in it against Trump and Christian nationalism. So all these labels, like, don't particularly matter to me. I just am against Trump, you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I think we have to be able to work together to combat this rising tide of Christian nationalism and fascism.
It did have swagger. Patrick Henry, college's founder, founded an organization called the Joshua Generation. And the idea behind the Joshua Generation is that the previous generation was the Moses generation that was going to lead them out of the bondage of Egypt,
this is really
which
interesting
in this analogy
here.
is like this is secular society. And
this is really similar to the like Jonadab class and the John class and the Jonadab class and like previous iterations of the Watchtower Society, what she's saying here. These different
called
eras.
The Joshua Generation. And the idea behind the Joshua Generation is that the previous generation was the Moses generation that was going to lead them out of the bondage of Egypt, which in this analogy is like this is secular society. And Joshua is the generation that's going to conquer it. And they really believed that they were on their way. And then from the movement's perspective, everything
now I
started to
understand
go
what you're
wrong.
saying. You just didn't say that
Obama
earlier.
was elected and reelected. Church attendance and Christian identification declined, and the number of people who said that they had no religion increased in 2015.
Also, that's not really true. Like, I see communists organize all the time. I really do have friends that are communists, and I see them, like, doing organizing and stuff. I don't think that it's particularly persuasive from what I've seen. And, you know, no shade, because literally every left-leaning... Like, nothing stopped Trumpism, so it was just a systemic failure all around.
Supreme Court legalized gay marriage. Going into the 2016 election, it seemed like Hillary Clinton, who was, you know, in many ways the incarnation
Not the kind of revolutionary stuff you're talking about.
Demonic evil for many people in this movement, seemed like she was going to be president, putting the Supreme Court out of reach for a generation. And so we all know what happened next. Now, Trump has reinvigorated this movement, but he's also transformed it the way that he's transformed the conservative movement more broadly. So if you look at what Trump has done to the Republican Party, right, the way he's dethroned kind of quasi-serious figures like Paul Ryan and Dick Cheney, who, for all their many sins, at least shared, I think, in the Venn diagram of overlapping realities, there was at least some maybe common ground. So he dethrones them and he elevates people who had been kind of kooks, right? People who had been considered marginal. Steve Bannon and Alex Jones now have far more influence than in the Republican Party than the former vice president of the United States or the former nominee for vice president of the United States. And he did something similar. Donald Trump did something quite similar in the religious realm. And this is, I think, a hard thing to get across because it's not as if, Pat Robertson and his ilk and the people I wrote about in Kingdom Coming are, sober, responsible, rational figures, but they really are compared to the new generation. So basically, the ex-president elevated a class of faith healers, prosperity gospel preachers, and roadshow revivalists that really appalled a lot of the quote-unquote respectable evangelicals who had clustered around George W. Bush. So you'll remember that initially, many of the kind of mainstream leaders of the Christian right hadn't liked Donald Trump for obvious reasons. They didn't see him as one of their own. They wanted a Ted Cruz or a Mike Huckabee. But there was one group that gravitated to Trump from the start, and they were these kind of independent, charismatic preachers and prophets and self-styled apostles.
Okay, this is really interesting to me. This kind of like independent, charismatic preacher thing, I really didn't know anything about. I find this really interesting. I'd like to maybe find some of these guys to talk about them on stream. Yeah, he likes everybody that praises him, and that's really it, Yeah. What I was talking about with like communism and all that stuff is like when you have an entire all-encompassing right-wing ecosystem that credibly leads people to believe that like Kamala Harris is a communist. Being a communist is kind of like nobody knows what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like the vast majority of this country clearly has no idea what anything means. Like they don't know what they don't know how government works. They don't know what Trump stands for. They don't know anything. But they're scared of that word, and they can just call Joe Biden and Kamala Harris communists, and people are like, "Oh, that's bad." So I guess I don't really know what I'm saying. I'm just like talking and thinking out loud. I'm still trying to figure out how Trump won so decisively, but I do think a lot of it is just that like the left and like genuine. They don't actually know what tariffs mean. Yeah, exactly. So we have a huge issue where just people don't really understand the words that they're using, the words that they're saying. And so to really be definitively against like liberals or socialists or anarchists or whatever, I'm just like, it doesn't matter because nobody else even knows what we're talking about. These arguments are so insular, nobody knows what the fuck we're talking about. All people want is to have good working conditions. They want to have a fair, livable hourly wage and a right to health care. And they want to be able to raise their families and prosper. The actual issues that move people aren't really based on all of this rhetoric. And so I think to have any kind of success and build some kind of bulwark against Trumpism, all of that kind of division on the left, like it just isn't really going to work, Yes, people who haven't educated themselves, but that's like not very useful, because it's not that people hadn't like when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I was in a cult. I didn't know that I wasn't educating myself. I thought I had the truth, and I thought everyone else was lying because that's what I was told. And that's what's happening with like billions of people in the world. is they think they are educating themselves. They don't know that they're just consuming propaganda that's like specifically getting them to vote against their own best interests. They don't know that. And I think it's kind of like elitist to say that, because not everybody is capable of educating themselves. Not everybody has those resources. Not everybody knows how to read. Like, people are exploited by these figures. And so it is not like this educate yourself thing. Like, no, it's on us to educate people. And that's a huge reason why I think the media was such a insane failure, is because they didn't educate people. They would just talk about, like, when the media is talking about the economy and, oh, voters have concerns about the economy, they're not educating people on what the economy is or how it works or how the cost of living is different from the stock market. They're just, you know. Yes, changing minds requires finding empathy, common ground, and having difficult conversations. Listen, I'm just reading your posts and reacting. And just saying, like, it's just everybody else's fault if they don't know, if they don't understand something, is like, that's kind of antithetical to what I believe on this channel. You can't, if people are in an information silo where they're told lies all the time and that's what their community is reinforcing, people are overworked and underpaid. People work multiple jobs. They don't have time to read communist theory. Who cares if the internet's free? Are they even going to understand it? Like, we need to be compassionate and empathetic and, like, educate people, right? Starting to get hot in here? Not me. I feel like I'm being pretty calm. I feel chill. I'm just expressing my opinion. I just don't think that kind of thing is helpful. Like, if your whole thing is like, fuck everybody unless they educate themselves, well, I mean, that's true. They could educate themselves, or we could take it upon ourselves to educate people.
It's a part of Christianity
Educate
that
yourself demonstrably
outside
doesn't work.
Of denominational structures, which can be kind of disciplining, right? If you are a Southern Baptist, you can't just go about making up your own kind of messages from God and expect to exist within that hierarchy, right? There's there's dogma and there's doctrine, and a lot of that dogma and doctrine is, I'm sure, appalling to most of the people in this room, but it does create certain limits. Whereas this movement, which really believes that, they believe that during the time of Christ, there were signs and wonders and apostles and, magic and supernatural gifts. Most Christians, including most evangelicals, believe that a lot of these phenomenon kind of stopped after the time of Christ, but they believe that they are that we're in a new, as they sometimes put it, a new apostolic moment. There's a part of this movement that I'm sure you're going to hear more about in the course of this conference called the New Apostolic Reformation. This belief in magic and direct messages from the Almighty is really key to that. And
this is what I didn't know, that this is what this was, but I feel like you see this all the times on all the time on TikTok. Like, you just see people doing these weird live streams where they're talking about their revelations they're receiving from God. Like, I didn't know what to make of any of that, but that's another huge part of, like, how everybody is just in these weird little information silos and nobody's on the same page, because anybody can just be some charismatic apostle with a social media page and say that they're receiving revelations and tell you that the whatever thoughts that are popping up in your head are that those things are revelations from God. Live streams and podcasts have destroyed the information environment. Rude. I think you should probably tune out of live streams then. I don't know what you're doing here. I actually don't know that I would agree with that. I don't think that, like, those things generally are that bad. I think that social media algorithms and algorithmically driven content is bad, because we just know from Cambridge Analytica and whistleblowers within Google and Twitter that algorithmic content is designed to keep people scrolling and to keep people agitated, to make people mad, and to keep them on the website. Like, conflict and contentiousness is what drives people to stay on these websites. And yeah, Google, I totally agree with Sean that Google totally sucks now. That was one thing that I was really happy with the Biden administration about, was Lena Khan going after Google and their monopoly, and just how it's now just like basically a completely unusable website. And yet they have a manipulate things. But yeah, it's just Grubber Wubber, I feel like I'm not being that contentious. I'm just trying to like figure out my opinion in real time. You know what I mean? Yeah, Chandler did get counseled, I suppose. Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad that at least one viewer is enjoying the live stream. Skylar Black. No, nobody's saying that. First of all, I never said I was a liberal, by the way, so I don't like this. Don't know. I was literally just saying that I don't think it's useful to say that like the internet's free, so people need to educate themselves. Like, I think that people underestimate the degree to which people are truly tuned out of politics. That like this kind of conversation we're having here is like really rare. People are just too busy like working, and then they have their families, and then they want to be entertained. They're just living their lives. They're just living their lives, and they actively avoid political content. You know, they're actively avoiding things because they view politics as divisive, or maybe they just view it as confusing, or maybe they just think it's all corrupt and doesn't matter, which, you know, they're not necessarily wrong. So people don't know what they need to even be educated on. It's not even that people are being willfully ignorant. It's like they just don't even know that there are things to be informed about that they're not informed about. And I think there is going to be a real opportunity under Trump, because if it's as bad as it seems like, then there will be a lot of people who are like, wait a minute, what the fuck happened? What's going on? And that is a opportunity to inform people about power structures and how it's going. That's all I'm saying. People trying to explain something to me that I've lived. That's great. I just don't think that everybody does that. I don't know. I'm not. I feel like we're being pretty chill up in here. So I'm sorry that it's coming across some other way.
A lot of these people, I mean, in part because this movement has so much overlap with the prosperity gospel. The prosperity gospel has always believed that wealth and material gifts are bestowed on believers. So it can be a sign of favor, which makes them, I think, much more likely to see a figure like Donald Trump as potentially holy. Those people have always clustered around Trump from the beginning.
I will say this is like my JW thinking kicks in, because I'm like, how could any Christian think that? Like, I'm not a Christian anymore, but I'm like, that is so against what Jesus taught. But it's true, like Pat Robertson especially, he's got, you know, private jets and all that stuff. But that's kind of an interesting take on why Christians, like, or a certain subset, don't view Trump as like unchristian.
And when Donald Trump ultimately became president, those were the people who he brought with them. I mean, there was other people who were very close to Donald Trump who were not part of this movement, other evangelicals who were close to Donald Trump who were not part of this movement.
I've been seeing your comments.
But he really elevated them. You know, his personal pastor, someone he gave a White House job to, was a I also did, divorced, but
I'm seeing everyone's comments.
A prophet named Paula White, who is, you know, a kind of a key figure in this movement and continues to be a key figure in this movement. So this movement was organized in the 90s by a guy named C. Peter Wagner. He was a professor at the Evangelical Fuller Theological Seminary. And he believed,
Seminary,
as I said before, he believed that we were in a second apostolic age. And he also incorporated dominion theology into this movement. So on the one hand, you have a movement that believes that it is in that it has this direct line to God. It also has something of a star system because there's no denominational structures. Everybody is competing for the wildest prophecy, the most kind of ecstatic. The most ecstatic expressions of fealty to Donald Trump, the most clever kind of rationalizations of things that Donald Trump does. And so you have this ratchet effect in this movement at the same time as you have this real fundamental conviction that this movement has the right to rule every sector of society. There's an excellent book that came out recently called The Violent Take It by Force about this movement.
This has been on my list for a while, by the way, The Violent Take It by Force.
The author, Matthew Taylor, writes about prophetic memes. And I think this idea is important because because we're talking about something that's very loose and networked and,
Prophetic memes just seems like a phrase that was tailor-made to this channel, by the way. This apostolic movement, this kind of we also really don't, I don't know if we have any mods in chat right now, so, but I'm also on StreamYard, so I don't, so I'm not moderating any contents here. They're just showing up on a little sidebar for me. I have to specifically open YouTube to do anything. I was reading a report, I think in the New Republic, about abuse, that happens in these movements because there's so many small Christian movements that are, they kind of operate like Jehovah's Witnesses in the sense they will have little elders and overseers, but they're really small and they're not some tax exempt official religious group. They're just these weird little cults that pop up. And then abuse can happen really easily within them and there's no real structure in place. So this entire thing I really want to learn more about because I find it really interesting.
It's not really about doctrines and encyclicals and dogmas. It's about ideas that float around and get grabbed and combined and remixed in these ever kind of escalating new and wild ways. So he talks about prophetic memes.
Yeah, you might be
constantly
looking at the wrong
circulating.
tab,
These are
too.
Flashes of revelation or theological interpretation. And when it comes to Trump, there are two prophetic memes, both originated by a guy named Lance Wallnau, that are really important. The first is called the Cyrus anointing, and this is
so fast. Okay, the Cyrus anointing. I listened to this at work. It was kind of half paying attention. I've been trying to find what this was. This is a little prophetic meme, as she says, that I think justifies Trump, which is so fascinating.
Really important. The first is called the Cyrus anointing. And this is the notion of Trump as a modern day Cyrus, a kind of pagan king who saves the chosen people and so you don't expect him to be a believer. You don't even expect him to be, moral. You just need him to be strong. So the idea that Trump is a modern day Cyrus comes from Lance Wallnau, and then maybe even more important is what's called the Seven Mountains Mandate. And if I tell you about the Seven Mountains Mandate, you'll hear a lot of echoes about from what Pat Robertson had said. So the Seven Mountains Mandate is the notion that Christians have the right and the obligation to seize the seven mountains of society, which are the home, the church, the schools, government and politics, the media, arts, entertainment, and sports, commerce, science, and technology. So if you go to kind of a Christian nationalist church or listen to a Christian nationalist podcast or go to one of these kind of revivals that are now doubling as Republican campaign rallies, you'll hear references to the seven mountains, even if the kind of theology behind them isn't explicitly laid out.
It's just so wild. There's organized religion and then there's that. That is just so all-encompassing. It's impressive. And Jehovah's Witnesses like to brag about how organized they are, but they're not trying to take over the seven mountains of society. They're just trying to exist. They're just trying to make some money, perpetuate themselves, and that's it. And then you got this, where they're very explicitly trying to take over every part of society. Wild. Absolutely wild. And Trump as a Cyrus figure who's like a pagan king from outside of the church who will be unexpectedly used to sanctify. So fascinating. That's mostly what I wanted to talk about or play. Definitely some interesting chat moments. I think I'll probably start to wind down here. But it was fun. I didn't end up going on any big tangents. Oh, shit, I really messed up. Okay, so here's what I meant to do, guys. Here's what I meant to do before we got into the politics thing. I made a politics drop.
It's difficult not to take sides in politics. It's very difficult because we are aware of the issues.
Perfect. I love how robotic and weird that lady is. And then I also had one for when I go on a tangent.
You know, I do the weave. You know what the weave is? I'll talk about like 9 different things and they all come back brilliantly together. And it's like, and friends of mine that are like English professors, they say, it's the most brilliant thing I've ever seen.
I don't know. It's amazing. I don't understand how anybody listens to that guy and thinks he's smart. I don't understand. But, hey, that's not what we're here for. Well, you know, was this a great stream? I don't know. It turns out the Gilead shit was a total dead end, and then we kind of fought a little bit. But, hey, we're figuring it out. It's very, very illustrative. We learned things. We came together. We worked out some differences. I know. Yeah, I would love to, just a quick follow-up question, Mr. Trump. Who are your favorite English professor friends of yours who are impressed by the weave? Amazing. Explain this, Kyle. Every time Tim Alberta challenge evangelical leaders not doing a good job representing Jesus, they really view it as a sacrifice they're willing to take. Yeah. Very demure, very mindful. I completely agree. Had a very demure and mindful stream. And yeah, I think in the future I'm going to try and block off the politics streams to their own thing. So we're not intermingling it with the JW stuff. But I just wanted to feel it out a little bit. Might have been different if our special guest would have been here. It's giving some scholars are saying the New World Translation is the best Bible translation. Yeah, absolutely. Well, good deal. I'm going to try and finish this video I'm working on. It'll be up early this week. It'll be up early for patrons. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you should do it. It helps me be alive. It helps us pay rent and buy groceries and things we need to be alive. Fun stuff. And so in the future, I definitely want to do some streams, specifically where we react to some of these charismatic apostles, where we can, react to old Pim Tool and Carly Chirk and Porden Jeterson and Shen Bapiro, and we'll just do spunky Foonerisms all the way down. So, good times. We did it. And I'll just end it with this little thing.
Brother Jody Jadley is about 6 months pregnant. And Jacob Rumpf was first arrested in January 2005 for murder. Jody Jadley nursed a murderous grudge against Jacob because Jacob considered